Okay, so the next thing I want to do are particles. Now, usually I would probably make the character movable first, but because I don't want to convolute the topics, we're going to start with the particles. Now, I'm in our folder here. I'm going to right click here. And on VFX, we have quite some Niagara stuff. Now, most of the stuff for beginners is totally can be ignored. All we need, and all I know, is the Niagara system. So click on it, and we're creating a new system from selected emitter. Next, and we're just going to use empty here. Click on the plus, and we hit finish. And we call this dark underscore creature underscore part for particle. We double click this, and it will open. So, ooh, scary, new window. It's actually not that scary. This one here can be ignored for now. We don't need this at the moment. We only need to focus on this thing here. What is going on here? A lot of stuff here. It's actually not that complicated. Here we just have the emitter settings. There are two things in this node here. First of all, the emitter and then the particles. Up here we have the settings for the emitter. So basically the thing that spawns everything is the emitter. We have the overall settings for it. We have some other settings. We have the emitter spawn, what is with where the emitter spawns and what it does. The emitter update, the particle spawn, what the particle do when they spawn, and the particle update, what they do each frame. Then we can handle certain events there if we needed to. And then we lastly have the render, how they are portrayed, if they are flat planes, if they are mesh or whatever. First of all, you can realize we don't see any actual particle. To see particle, we have to spawn them first. And we do this in the emitter update. So we click on it and we type in spawn. And then we will get a spawn rate. So basically the emitter, the thing that spawns the whole thing, updates each frame how many particles spawn. So we click on the spawn rate and we just drag this a little bit up and we can see, oh, we get particles, but they're not moving. This is why they get brighter. If we put quite a few in, you can see a lot of particles spawn over each other and they start shining. Let's just do 100 for now. That should be just fine. Maybe we want to change the position where they spawn. For that, we have the particle spawn, obviously. If we click on it and we type in box, we get like a box. You can see this is under location. So if I delete this here again, and we look for location here, we have all sorts of locations where we can spawn our particle. And I'm just going to start with a box. And you can see they start spawning in like a box position. But we don't need this right now, so let's just delete it again, delete. And we're going to the particle update. In the particle update, we can update what they do each frame. For example, if we click plus here and go down to force, we have all sorts of forces. And I would say we're just going to use the gravity force for now, and we will get this arrow here. This is super typical to get because something is missing, or maybe the order is wrong. So all you really have to do is fix issue. You don't have to do anything else. And you can see they start falling because we have gravity in here with the gravity force selected. And what it added is it added this solve force velocity. This is kind of always, not really always, but most of the times has to be in the end. If it doesn't need to be in the end, you will always get this fixed error and it will do it automatically for you. But this gravity force here, we can see we have a force of Z minus 980. We're just going to put in a 10 or something, and you can see they slowly start rising. You could, for example, also add, I don't know, vertex is usually a pretty cool thing. And you can see it's below the solve for forces and velocity, and we just fix issue and it's above. And now we have this force amount here. It's probably a bit high. This is why we don't see anything. So if we drag the gravity below the force maybe. So if we increase the gravity quite a lot, so it's getting like a little bit out here, you can see we will get like a sort of mix. Maybe that's a bit very high here. Yeah, it's probably a little bit hard to see. Let's put in the particle spawner box again really quick. There we go. Now you can see. It's just because they spawned at the same position and then it was a little bit weird. So we can also turn off the gravity here really quick by just unchecking this checkbox here. And you can see the vortex is doing its thing here. And if we add the gravity to it, it obviously will go a little bit up here. Just a 10 will gravitate a little bit up while also doing the vortex. So, but I don't really want the vortex. It was just to show off that you can combine different forces. Put in a 10 here again in the gravity, just so it's rising a little bit. All right, let's make it rise a little bit more though, like a 20. So the first thing I want to focus on here with the particles is that we just do like a basic smoke, okay? And this basic smoke we're going to then put onto our character and where we then eventually modify it more, okay? But for now we're just thinking, okay, basic smoke, all right? So For the basic smoke, we basically already kind of have everything we need here. Beside one thing, which is the material. Right now it's just like a sphere. So we're going to make a custom material. So we right click here and create a material. And we call this for now just simply smoke. And we're going to open this up. Let's go full window here. So the first thing we need in here is a so-called particle sub UV. Make sure you type it in that way, particle sub UV. I'm going to go what this actually is in a moment, but first of all, we're going to put an actual texture in here. And if we select it, we get options over here. So we unfold this here, and then a few options. You have to show engine content. Here you can see I have this checked, show engine content, and then you can type in smoke. And then we got a few smoke things. You gotta take one that has like a lot of small dots in here. I'm going to go over that in a second. You can see this one doesn't have individual dots. We need one of those. And we're going to use the 8x8. So in order to see what it is, we can just plug this into the emission here really quick and change this over here from the sphere to our plane. So we can see it actually. Next thing we need is a particle color. So the reason we need a particle color here is because this node will automatically recognize that we are in a particle system. So if we change the color here in the particle system, it will go into the material, and then from the material it will go into the render and show our output. Okay, so it's like a moving from this here to this here to this here. Yeah, just from this part here somewhere, wherever we put the color in, into the smoke, and then into the actual output. This is why we need this specific particle color. What we grab here is basically what we input over here. And then this one goes into the render and shows us whatever it is. I'll repeat it in a second. So first of all, we have to combine this. So basically, let's just grab the upper color here into the emission. And by the way, we can just select it and change this over here to unlit, so we don't have any of the other weird outputs for now. Apply it. We also need to put this material into the output. Like I said, here it's going to output a material, but this is just a default sprite material. We have to actually select our smoke and then click on the little arrow here. I'm going to make it full screen first of all, arrow here. And now we have it on here, and you can see just the white square, which we also have over here. So now how do we change the color? We can change the color either at the spawn or at the particle update. This is very important because if we do it at the spawn, it's going to stay this color. It's going to spawn with the color, it's going to stay with the color. If we do it in a particle update, we have the option to change it each frame. For the moment, we're going to do it in the particle spawn, just so you can see. So click plus, we're going to type in color. So now we have a color output here. And over here, with that selected, we can change the color. So you see this? So why is the color changing? Because we changed the color in here, yeah, and over here, it's going to go through into the output, and in the render, it knows, okay, it has this material and shows us the color. Let's keep the color in here for now. We will probably change it later, but for now we can keep it in here. We go back to our material because we have to kind of combine this sub-UV we just created. So let's grab this, and we're going to use a multiply, and we're going to multiply this with that color here. If we do this and plug it in and hit apply, we go back here, you can already see what's going on. We will be able to change the color of the smoke. If we change this here, we will be able to change the color. But I'm gonna step back here. We also want transparency, obviously, because we don't want a white background, right? So for that, you can see opacity is grayed out. For that, we have to select this node here, and under the blend mode, we have to change it. Best probably is if we just use additive for now, and you can see it's kind of flipped. This is a bit interesting. Right, because we don't, never mind. We have to first of all put in our opacity. For that, we just grab the alpha channel. You can see here it's the combined RGB. Here it's R, G and B separate, and here it's alpha. So we're just multiplying this with the alpha of this one here into the opacity. For those who don't know, very simple term, you kind of look a little bit more into that, but multiplying it just means the 0 multiplied with a 1. You always think in zeros and ones. If you multiply 0 with 1, it's going to be 0. If you multiply 1 with 1, it's going to be 1. And this is the whole system behind it. But now we got this background sorted out. Let's apply this. Let's take a look over here. And you can already see what's going on. We only have the smoke parts, right? And we can still change the color if we need to. Why do we have this image here? We have this image because those are individual frames. So basically one frame will be this here, next frame will be this here, next frame this here, next frame this here, next frame this here, next frame this here, etc. Until we reach like a smallish smoke here. I don't think this image is optimal, but it is what we have right now. We eventually I'm going to make a video where we create our own one. But the idea is that it's just that the particles flip each frame, and that will create like the illusion of smoke. So for that to set up, we just have to go to the sprite renderer here, and somewhere we have sub UV. Why sub UV? Because this is the node we also used here. So if we change this, sub UV, sub image size, we have a 8 by 8. Why 8 by 8? Because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 by 8. So this is why we set this up 8 by 8. And you can already see what's going on. It's actually not looking as janky anymore. Eventually we can turn off the box location here really quick, and we might get a little bit of a better view here. You can also reduce the spawn rate a little bit. Let's just do 1 maybe. Let's see if 1 does the trick. And we can maybe slightly see it changing. I'm even not that sure, to be honest. We can make a quick test if it's actually working. Right click, make another particle sub UV. We are going to flip this out really quickly here. Select it, and then we go down here and use a flipbook. Simple flipbook here. And we're going to just plug this into the emission here, and alpha into alpha. And we get a 1, 2, 3, 4, right? We can just apply this, and then we might be able to see it changing. Alright, we also have to go to the sprite renderer because this is now a 2 by 2. It's actually not working, okay. This is probably a better solution if we just work with a particle sub UV and the flipbook for now. So this is very nice and dandy right now. We only see the one of our 4 thingies, right? This is because we set the sprite renderer to 2 by 2. If we change the image, we have to change this also to 8 by 8. But to make this now change the individual numbers, we have to go to particle update, because each frame, right, we want to update. So we need just simply a sub UV animation here. And you can already see what's going on. It's flipping through, and we can change the settings in the sub UV, start frame, end frame. And we just simply have 4 frames because we have 4 individual images, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And the thing is, you can see the animation is set up for normalized age lifetime. Yeah, it's kind of self-explanatory. And the lifetime, I didn't show this yet, but it is in particle spawn. Yeah, lifetime, right? We have 5 seconds of lifetime. If we set this to a 4 here, or let's say even a 1, you can see it would automatically fit itself to the lifetime. Yeah, so basically, as long as it is as slower, it will blend, etc. So this is already pretty handy. Now we just simply want to swap it out. So we go over here and swap it out to our previous thing. Apply it. And now it's flipping through. It doesn't look right. This is just simply because we have to check the sprite renderer, sub UV. It's a 8 by 8. And that will fit the size, but we can see it's stopping at like 4 frames. That is because the sub UV animation needs to get the right input. 8 by 8 is how many we have. So if we have an image 8 by 8, so 8 times 8, 64. Could have done it in my head, definitely. 64. And we will see now we get an actual, not too bad looking smoke. It's definitely not ending very well. I'm not sure why the smoke is even in the engine default, but we can see it's working. That is the main point here. Maybe we can change the gravity a little bit higher, just so we get like a little bit of a up there. Yeah, a little bit much. Let's do like a 60 or something. Doesn't need to look good now. We just need to know how it works and get it technically working. We can later on still change the force if we now use a gravity or a linear force or something else. Doesn't matter very much, but things need to work first of all. So things are technically working when it comes to our smoke thought. Yeah. Now we want to do a few things. First of all, I want to delete the box here. Now box nice and fine, but we don't need this. We're going to increase the spawn rate here a little bit, just so we kind of see a few, let's say 70 or 100, whatever. We want to spawn them on our mesh. So for that, we have under the particle spawn, we have, if we just go into location, it's always the easiest because under spawn, what we want is a location, you know, under spawn here. And we have a skeletal mesh location. not the static mesh location, but the skeletal, because we're using a skeleton. Yeah. So if we use this, we get some options to the right here. And preview mesh, we can just use the dark creature. And you can see we already get like the form of our creature. Now the smoke might be a little bit big. Let's see if we can change this somewhere. If I don't find something, I'm just going to type in size here. I'm pretty confident it will be called size somewhere. So I'm just going to click through. It is not going to be in the emitter. So, but I'm just for the purpose, I'm going to click through here, size mode. Here under particle spawn, size mode, unset. If we change this to uniform, we can just simply change the size. It's already set at 10. We could go smaller, could go bigger. So for now, I just want something I can actually see. And there we go. We can see it's kind of spawning in the character position. If you want to see a bit clearer, just hit the particles a bit higher here. And you will see this is definitely our mesh. Actually, I think I used the wrong skeletal mesh location here. Let's try this again. Ah, there we go. We need, weird it's not in there, initial mesh reproduction sprite. This is what we need. I'm sorry, I kind of messed this a little bit up, but okay. And then the dark creature. And you can already see it's way more even than we had it before. It was just the wrong thing here. Already get confused why it's like so uneven. It's spawning where it should. And I think it's the particle size gets overwritten in this one here. That's why I was confused a bit a second earlier. So this size here, I think doesn't matter anymore, or does it? It seems like it doesn't matter anymore actually. So we can just change this back to unset, because now the initial mesh reproduction sprite overrides the size here. Yeah. So another thing is that we want to use the vertex color for our color, right? So if the eye is white, the particles that spawn in the eye should also be white. So what we have to do is go to color, and sometimes I'm not even that confident there myself, but you can unfold this here and you can do like dynamic inputs and whatever. Yeah, see, I'm not that confident myself, like I just said. I just looked for vertex color, didn't find it, and I wondered why. And the reason is because the initialized mesh reproduction sprite is after the color. So the color doesn't even know it's a mesh, but if we drag it below, the color knows it is a mesh. And if we now go in here, and under link inputs, output, there we go. We can grab the vertex color and let the vertex color drive the color. If we now do this, one thing, we see white particles on the eyes, but not on the body. The reason for that is a problem in the material. We checked our material and changed it to additive, meaning black being 0, white being 1. It's going to add to the background, meaning if it's black and it's 0, it's adding 0 to whatever is in the background, meaning it's not changing. So instead of additive, we're going to use translucent. This is a bit more accurate, a bit more power intensive, but it's going to work. Hit apply, and if we take a look, we will see we actually get dark particles where our mesh is dark and white particles where the mesh is white. I know it's not looking perfect, but you know, we can always change the texture. This is the least of my concerns. And we can, in between here now, press Ctrl+Shift+S just to save it. So now it's a bit problematic for us to see it because we didn't set up the character. Now I can do a little trickery here, because obviously I'm going to work in my proper file here currently, right? I can open my Google. You don't have to do anything, just take a look for a second. I'm going to open my character blueprint here. I'm going to explain this. Don't worry, don't panic, okay? We're going to cover this. This is all very logical. And I'm going to put in my Niagara system here. That should basically be it. I can select my Niagara system, only have one, compile. And we can take a look here, or you can take a look. If you set it up the right way, we can see this. Now, the thing I want to show you here is how the particles escalate. Yeah. Well, I found a few solutions, but the main point I'm trying to make here is that the lifespan is way too long. Usually we want like a very low lifespan. 1 second is quite long, I would say. So let's make it maybe like 0.3 or something, and maybe increase the spawn rate. Already have like 2000. Let's make a clean 2000. All right, let's take a look. This is already looking better, you see? Maybe the spawn rate is, the lifetime is still a bit long, huh? Instead of a 0.3, let's use a 0.1 or something, and increase the spawn rate to like 5000. I'm concerned about one thing here. One thing we also have to change, because we are starting to use quite some particles and it's useful anyway. If we go to the emitter properties, we're currently using under sim target the CPU. We don't have to use the CPU. We can use the GPU. Now CPU usually is more accurate, and for collisions and stuff you will have to use the CPU, but you will not be able to use as many particles. GPU is much more efficient. Now you can see it's complaining a little bit. All you have to do is fix bounce here and this error will go away. It shouldn't really visually change much, but I can increase the particles to quite an insane number, you can see, and this will probably still run pretty smooth here, see? So the initial problem I wanted to show you here with the character is that it's kind of wobbling around. You can see when I'm running, it's kind of in front here a little bit. The main reason this happens, that the particles are in front here, is just due to the velocity. When the character like moves forward, you can see how her face is moving forward, so the particle like spawn a little bit with the velocity in front, which is a bit weird. So in order to fix this, we have to go to the particle update here. And there is this thing called update mesh reproduction sprite. And if we plug this in here, we also need to select our dark creature here. You might get a checkbox where it wants to fix something because a CPU or something, but apparently it's not there anymore. Maybe they enable this for the GPU as well, so we should be good eventually. Yeah, so, and with that thing, things should stay always on the mesh. If you now hit play, now you will not see it, but you can see the particles perfectly stay on the mesh. This is just the one thing I wanted to show you here. So now in order to see things properly, let's go to our dark creature folder here, probably the only one anyway. And just as a quick solution, we can select the particle system and the dark creature skeletal mesh, and we drag it together out. And now if we zoom in with F, alt right click and click somewhere else, we can see what is going on here. Now, like I said, I'm not entirely sure I like the texture here. Eventually we can just use white. Let's just use only white. Yeah, I'm skipping this multiply for a second here. Hit apply. Yeah, that's maybe already a little bit better. But yeah, if we, another thing is that our particles got smaller again because we added this update mesh production sprite here. And you can see that the sprite size, we have 2 axes here now. We can actually make it pretty long. Oh, this is interesting. This is pretty interesting. What we can do to control them both together is unfold this here and type in float. Yeah? Vector 2D from float. And now we have a single number with which we can increase the size a little bit. All right, you can see I already changed a few things here. Not too much though. First of all, in the smoke material, if you select the particle sub UV, I changed this to fire. So instead of smoke, I use fire here. If I type it in, fire. Yeah. So this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. And you can see I changed a few things here. It has a hard cutoff. So meaning I selected a smoke and I changed this to masked. Why? Because mask is way more efficient than translucent, and at the same time it gives it a little bit more of an anime vibe. Then we have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's a 6 by 6. Then you go under sprite renderer and you change the sub UV to 6 by 6. You go to the sub UV animation and you have 6 times 6 is 36. So we have an end frame of 36. And with that you will already get this more cartoonish, fire-ish like thingy here. Then I played a little bit with the spawn rate. I thought 3000 might be fine. And in the update mesh reproduction, I also played a little bit with the scale, so I made it like 3 or something. And that's already it. Like, I didn't do more here really. Because I wasn't quite happy with how the smoke looked like. The smoke just didn't properly cycle through and didn't look nice. But we have a real gap here. But what we can do to slightly fix this in the sprite renderer, you can see here under pivot in UV space. It changed this a little bit because you can see if we drag this up, like a 5 out of that or something, it's going to get a little bit higher, yeah? And I just slightly offset this. Let's make up 1 out of that maybe. Let's see. With that, we get a little bit of a distance up there. Maybe 1 is a little bit much. Let's use a 0.75. And we already get a little bit of a distance out of there.